Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio review. Pinocchio is worth seeing again and giving more consideration to, and it will probably take some time to get what it can from its seemingly straightforward plot. It may have been necessary to formally refer to this Pinocchio movie as Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio in a year with several Pinocchio films, but it is also appropriate because the Mexican auteur's stamp is all over it. It's clear what drew him to the subject, from the mythical aspects in the story to the protagonist's resemblance to Frankenstein's monster, and the gorgeous stop-motion animation makes it clear why he would want to tell it in this fashion. It's easy to concentrate exclusively on the artwork and emerge enthralled, since he's a natural fit for both the subject and the medium. However, this retelling also makes a few significant adaptational decisions that radically alter the way the story is told. What was addressed children, specifically males, is now directed at their parents, specifically fathers. The sheer power of the movie guarantees that Pinocchio will have an impact, but whether the emotion of it truly hits home may depend in part on whether the audience identifies more as a parent or child. Pinocchio begins with a prologue destined for catastrophe and is then narrated by Sebastian J. Cricket, Ewan McGregor, in his soothing tones. Geppetto, David Bradley, is content, regarded, and devoted to his immaculately charming son, Carlo, in Italy during World War I, Gregory Mann. The boy is later killed in a war-related stroke of bad luck, and the poor woodcarver crumbles. Years pass before Geppetto decides one night in a drunken rage to bring him back. He chops down the pine tree that had been planted in Carlo's memory, where the cricket narrator had just moved in, and starts to make it into a marionette replica of his missing child. He mutters that he'll finish the puppet in the morning before passing out. The wood sprite, Tilda Swinton, then appears as he sleeps. She breathes life into Geppetto's creation after seeing the sad man and feeling sympathy for him, and she assigns Sebastian, who calls himself homeowner, the task of directing him toward goodness. Everyone is familiar with the final component, but it's crucial to note the variations in how it manifests. In this adaptation, Geppetto awakens to find his puppet has transformed into a gleeful, destructive whirlwind and is terrified. The only person who truly wanted Pinocchio, man, to live was the wood sprite. Cricket only consents to act as his conscience after being given the promise of a wish for his troubles. The townsfolk react to Pinocchio with fear and rejection because he is obviously crude and displays his otherness in a way that makes him part of Del Toro's canon of monsters. The conniving carny Count Volpe, Christoph Waltz, the fascist Podesta, Ron Perlman, and Geppetto all see Pinocchio as what he could be rather than what he is. However, once the shock wears off. The second coming of Carlo. The puppet, whatever much he attempts to take on those personas, always a fleeting endeavor, cannot be anything other than who he is. Being adored and accepted is what he longs for most of all, even more than becoming a real boy. The voyage of moral development is therefore essentially Geppetto's, and just as the original tale demonstrated inappropriate behavior in boys, Del Toro focuses on inappropriate fathers in his adaptation. Two examples include Volpe and the Podesta, and not just because of their connections to Pinocchio. Spazzatura, Cate Blanchett, yes, really, which is tellingly the Italian word for waste, is the name of the monkey the showman has adopted. He verbally and physically assaults Spazzatura while dousing him in just enough compliments to make him dependent on his favor. Podesta has a son of his own named Candlewick, Finn Wolfhard, who takes on the moniker of a cruel dad. The fascist prefect demands a lot of his son in an effort to shape him into his own image. Even if it suited him, Candlewick could never live up to an ideal. The wounds from their parent-child relationships threaten to destroy both Spazzatura and Candlewick, as they each harbor immense jealousy for Pinocchio, the object of their father's affection. The context plays a significant role in this reading. The ideology of fascism is portrayed as a perverted version of paternalism, with Italy serving as the fatherland and its male residents as its sons. Benito Mussolini warps his nation much like the Podesta, a former blacksmith, hammers Candlewick into shape. Religion plays a significant role in this story as well. Geppetto and Carlo were working on the enormous crucifix in the local church when the youngster died, and it was left unfinished until Pinocchio entered the picture. In both the political and theological spheres, the rambunctious puppet is used to make some excellent societal critiques, but Jesus as a symbol is more significant. Contrary to the priest, again, how does one address priests? In the end, Del Toro's movie informs its audience that he is a son that others go to for guidance. A good parent views his son as someone to learn from and, inevitably, change for rather than as something to be changed in accordance with their wishes or desires. Of course, this only scratches the surface of what may be said about Del Toro's latest masterpiece. It is worth watching again and giving more consideration to, and it will probably take some time to extract everything from its seeming simple plot. However, one's experience at the time depends in part on how much they relate to Geppetto and the film's examinations of loss and sadness. Pinocchio will be categorized by some as a profoundly emotional masterpiece and by others as an intriguing, expertly crafted, and ultimately endearing retelling of a well-known classic. In any case, it is a beautiful piece of work from a notable filmmaker, and that is always something to be grateful for.